How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Ginger Snaps. This is from the year 2000, directed by John Fawcett, and stars Emily Perkins, Katharine Isabelle, Kris Lemche, and Mimi Rogers. Overall, this is a really good werewolf movie that over the years has built up quite the cult following, and I can really see that. It is a really cool, gory werewolf movie, but it also has things like really strong characters, dark humor, and a different take on how the werewolf works, which leads into this super strong metaphor. It's a movie that really does fire on all cylinders, and the end product comes out really well. What I think is the strongest element is the characters. I really like these two sisters, Ginger and Bridget, and they're teenagers, and they're kind of like Wednesday Addams. They're angsty, and they're against the world, and it's just the two of them, you know? But then when Ginger gets bitten by a werewolf, the two start to drift apart, and she starts to turn more and more violent. And I really do like both the transformation and the level of violence is gradual, and you get to see Ginger getting more and more violent over the course of the movie, and it is a good scale where you look back and you're not 100% sure where you cross the line. And I do like how in this movie, turning into a werewolf is something that takes place over the course of a month, and it turns into like Cronenbergian body horror. That's pretty cool. But the movie also gets that there's a difference between a younger teenager and an older teenager, and how a younger teenager kind of wants to be isolated and kind of hates everything. And then there's a certain point where instead it's about being rebellious and partying and being big, extreme, and over the top. And this movie really does get that shift that happens in people. Now, obviously, as a lot of people point out, the werewolf in this movie is kind of a metaphor for puberty. Everybody makes jokes about the blood and the hair and whatnot, and it does this metaphor really well and was able to talk about puberty in this different and interesting way. But I will say, if anyone's a little scared off by this, don't worry. It's not like sitting through an hour and a half of health class or anything. It still is a really crazy, over-the-top werewolf movie, and I really do like that. It's still more universal than you might think. Most of this movie I could see and relate to and, either have stuff like that happen or know someone that has, obviously minus the werewolf parts. But it still is a really cool movie. If you like those high school movies, a lot of people would point out that this would go on to pretty directly inspire Jennifer's Body. But if you like those fun, kind of edgy, dark high school comedies crossed with over-the-top supernatural horror, this is a pretty good one, and I can definitely recommend it. It's one of the more unique werewolf movies and one of the best werewolf movies ever made. Probably earns a spot in the top 5, but I have not done a ranking video. Overall, though, definitely recommend it. It is kind of more of a cult film, so if you haven't heard about this, go check it out. It is really cool. All that being said, I do want to take a moment and do a bit of a deeper analysis. So from here on out, I'll be talking about the plot in a little more specifics. I'll be avoiding major spoilers so I won't ruin the end or anything, but I do want to take a moment and dig down a little more and talk in more depth about the movie. Anyway, we open up with these two sisters. Ginger's the older sister, and Bridget's the younger sister, and we get to see right off the bat that the two have a bit of a macabre hobby. They stage fake death photos, so we see them, and, from a horror standpoint, it is cool to see them breaking out special effects, but also, man, these photos are just super dark, a bunch of different ways the two of them could die. Yeah, I will say, you do a movie like this nowadays, they would probably try to clean it and make it more censored, but I feel like that's part of the thing about leaving stuff uncensored is, this is more honest to how a lot of teenagers feel. Really dark and really edgy, and yeah, some of these photos are shocking, but that's kind of the way you have to be if you want to be authentic. You see, Ginger and Bridget, they live in this suburb, and all the houses are exactly the same. Life there is super boring and kind of inauthentic, and they really do hate it. Well, one day, Ginger and Bridget are out very late at night, and they really shouldn't be because there's a legend of a local beast that's been killing a bunch of dogs lately, and everyone says don't go out at night, but of course these two are going to, and when they're out, they're attacked by a werewolf. The werewolf bites Ginger and then runs off and gets hit by a car. And I will say, yeah, that's the first inclination that these werewolves aren't magical in this one and they're much more natural. You don't need a silver bullet. Running over with a car really works out pretty well. And you would think, okay, so the werewolves are more vulnerable in this. Yeah, I guess you could say they're easier to kill, but bear in mind when it's your sister who's going to be turning, running her over with a car isn't really your first inclination. But anyway, yeah, after that, Ginger gets this big bite on her shoulder, but it starts to heal really fast, and Bridget knows something's up, but Ginger says, no, we keep this quiet, and we start to see her start to rebel, and it is a good scale, you know, they don't just instantly turn against each other. You know, at first, she's a little ruder, and then she's going to be doing drugs and hanging out with boys more and just leaving Bridget more and more alone. And then we'll get things like her being more sexually aggressive and her being more violent. And eventually, things are going to go way too far. And that's the same with the body horror. We get things like the cut starts to have a little bit of fur coming out of it. We quite hilariously see that Ginger's growing a tail, and we get these iconic wisp of white hair coming out of the front. It's a really cool slow design, and again, notes of Cronenberg, which are really great. Well, Bridget needs some help. She doesn't really know what to do, but luckily for her, the guy that ran over the original werewolf happens to be the local drug dealer, so he's more inclined to believe her story. And also, he knows a bit of science. Again, kind of that weird thing, you know, drug dealer, kind of also a scientist. And he's like, you know, it's gotta be natural, it's not magic, I could kill it with my car. So what do they have to say? And he starts digging through lore and looking up a bunch of classic herbal remedies. And I do like how, you know, this guy's the drug dealer, so he's kind of a bad guy, but you really do see that he's not really evil. It's just kind of where he got put in his life and what he winds up doing, and the fact that he turns into a surprising ally. I really do like that shift there. But obviously, things are going to start to go downhill, and it's best to get that cure sooner than later. And I do like the way that this movie talks about Bridget growing up too, because she's at first quite quiet and in her shell, and she's putting up a front. But to see her over the course of the movie come a little bit out of that shell, become a little bit more assertive, that's really cool. I also do like they have this character of their mother, and the mother, you know, when she thinks that it's just puberty going on, she'll say the right things. She'll be happy, she'll say this is natural, but I really do love that even though she's saying the right things, that is not at all what Ginger wants to hear. And I do like that, and I think that more people need to hear that, because we get so many people thinking if they just say the right things and everything will work out magically, but she's in pain and she's in distress. She doesn't want to hear the textbook answers to her solutions. This movie is a feminist film, and we get to see Ginger and Bridget going through this time in high school and how different people react to her changing. And we do get more development out of the mom as the story goes on, and I like that they kept that relationship good as well. And it does build to some cool stuff. I won't go too much further, but this movie does have a Halloween party section, so kind of a Halloween movie as well. And it does end on a really big, epic, and over-the-top note, and that's pretty cool stuff. Overall, Ginger Snaps is one of the best werewolf movies ever made. You guys really should go check it out if you haven't seen it. And I heard they made 2 more of these. I haven't seen them yet, but I do want to check them out as well, so hopefully I'll get to them soon. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. If you guys want to see more, you can click there and see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very soon. Relevant playlist here, Have a good day now.